It was President Abraham Lincoln that stated that a nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure. Honoring our heroes is exactly what we are here to do today. Those of us gathered here today and throughout this week share a terrible secret. We know the contributions of this division over the past 100 years come at an awful price. We know that freedom, democracy, and the defeat of evil is paid for in blood. Thinking about that shared secret and about the names honored on these stones gives perspective. I am often reminded that in today's American society, they place the wrong people on a pedestal. You see, society's heroes are too often someone who can catch a football for $24 million or someone who can sing a song better than the next. This past year, our nation honored the deaths of actors whose adult lives were spent committed to pretending to be someone else in a fictional script. This past year, we watched news anchors mourn pop singers who died of drug overdoses. Well, those of us gathered here today and throughout this week share that terrible secret that we know the contributions of this division to freedom, democracy, and the defeat of evil over the past 100 years have come in the price of blood. We know who the real heroes are. One need only look at the lives eulogized in this sacred place to find them. As you read the names and stories behind them, you find that not for 100 years, all Americans have served with neither fanfare or fame, not for fortune or recognition. They fought for a calling. They fought for the All-American beside them and their friends and family back home. Captain Jewett Williams was 31 years old with a wife and a 5-month-old daughter when he became the first All-American killed in combat. Jewett was a clergyman and a family man who volunteered to fight the Central Powers. He was felled by a German rifle in a remote French village on June 9, 1918. First Lieutenant Weston Lee was 25 years old when he became the last All-American casualty in combat. Weston was brought down by an IED in Iraq late last month. Like Jewett and all the rest, this was one hell of a loss. Weston was raised in a small town in Georgia that most have never heard of. There are far more people in one of these tents than his entire hometown. He wanted to be a soldier since the 9th grade. And when notified of his death, his parents said they were thankful that at least Weston died doing something that he loved. Weston's death is a stark reminder that, as it is for the past century, evil still exists in the world. Storm clouds of danger still gather outside our borders, and in our 100th year, the world needs an 82nd Airborne Division. I pray that this division will go the next 100 years without ever having to add another name to this field. I pray for 100 years of calm winds of peace and soft landings of tranquility. But we who share that terrible secret know better. We know that the American ideal of freedom and safety is paid for by the sacrifice of a few. We must place paratroopers in dangerous situations as we have for the last 100 years. In 1917, a group of blacksmiths, farmers, and tradesmen came together to form a new unit. They were an experiment, a vision of a national army organized to fight a world war. A group of Americans from all over the country forming to fight as a cohesive unit. This had never been done before. They represented the values of all Americans. They knew that many of them would never return from France in World War I. 1,298 of them never did. Jewett Williams was among them. So in between Jewett and Weston, there have been 5,019 All-Americans killed in combat. There have also been 236 killed in training. Those numbers are important, but numbers have their limits. They hide the human dimension of those losses. That's more than 5,000 families forever changed. Children who said goodbye to their mothers at Green Ramp and never saw them again. Fathers who missed the birth of a child and then missed the rest of their child's life. Parents who folded American flags in their living rooms. Wives who received that terrible knock on the door, and husbands who received the call they feared the most. Some of them died crossing the Wall River, others while seizing the island of Sicily. Some did not survive D-Day. Others were killed in a Vietnamese village. Some paid that final price in Panama's Trios Airport. Others in the mountains of Afghanistan and the fields of Iraq. Others still while securing the Dominican Republic's Duarte Bridge. You didn't hear eulogies of them on the national news. You didn't see public figures mourn them upon their death. But you do see their names here, and that means something. And as long as we share that secret, this will always mean something. And we know that all Americans remain in harm's way. Today in Mosul, Iraq, 100 years after that initial gathering, an all-American paratrooper is checking the functions of his weapon as he lightly oils it before heading out on a combat patrol. In Kabul, Afghanistan, a platoon leader is checking routes and checking equipment. As their forebears did a century ago, they'll walk out into the dark and unknown of the night with the weight of the world on their shoulders. The country may honor the millionaires, the movie stars, and the baseball players. Let us, those who've worn the AA patch, forever honor the men and women memorialized in these stones. Through that memory, may they live on for the next 100 years. Airborne all the way.